Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to the September edition of the East Valley Astronomy Club meeting. So glad to see you all here. We actually have a little larger crowd than I actually expected tonight. If you're not aware, we have about 30 or so of our club members up on the Mogollon Rim right now at a star party. They went up on Wednesday afternoon. They'll come back on Sunday morning. So we have this crowd here, and then we have, I think we had 30 registered for Zoom tonight as well. So we have a good crowd on Zoom also. So welcome, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. My name's Steve Bradshaw, for those that don't know. And let's go ahead and get on with the show tonight. So the standard welcome page, you see it every month. So for those in the room and those on Zoom, we thank you for being here with us tonight. And as I say every single month, we hope you enjoy yourselves here tonight. We hope you learn something interesting. We have two speakers tonight, so hopefully you'll learn something interesting. Double your chances anyway with two speakers. We hope you make a new friend tonight, and we hope you reconnect with old friends. Now, notice I did mention people in the room and people on Zoom both. So I wanted to kind of address that for just a moment here. We have, once again, about 30 people that had signed up or registered to join us via Zoom tonight. So for those Zoom folks, welcome here. And for the folks on Zoom specifically, we have, once again, we have two speakers tonight. So we'll have two Q&A sessions at the end of each speaker. And so for the folks on Zoom, be sure to type any questions you have in your Zoom chat panel. And we have Tom Musden here in the room, and he will go ahead and read those questions out so that our speakers can address your questions. Q&A. Okay, yeah, yeah, Q&A, whatever. It's a message panel in there. So anyway, all right. And then for those here in the room, we do have people on Zoom. So when you ask your questions during the Q&A session, please wait to be given a microphone. We have a spare mic sitting over here with Amanda. And the reason we know you might have a loud enough voice to be heard throughout the room. That's not the issue. But if you don't have the mic, the people on Zoom don't hear your questions. So we like the people on Zoom to hear the question and then hear the speaker address and respond to that question. So anyway, so that's for everybody in the room and everybody on Zoom tonight. If you haven't already done so, and I have not actually, this is a good time to put your phones on stun. So I just did that myself so that we don't have phones ringing during the meetings. And do we have any visitors here tonight? If we do, we wouldn't mind if you'd like to raise your hand and introduce yourself. We'd love to have you do that. If you want to, obviously what we need to know or would like to know is your name, how did you find us, what's your astronomy experience, and if you have one, what's your favorite object in or thing or whatever about space. So any visitors here tonight that would like to introduce yourselves? If so, we'll do that. And I'm not seeing any hands, so we got one, okay. We'll give you a mic here real quick.
Chuck Morrison. Just knew about you guys from last year, I think it was, and just been amateur astronomer, liked it since I was a kid. And I don't know, favorite thing? Space station.
Space station, okay. Yeah, I must have gone outside to see the space station go over my house like 50, 60 times now. And I still never get tired of it. I just like to watch it go by every night, or every time it goes by. All right, so anybody else? Got one back over there.
Dave Schaefer. I was in this club many, many years ago, just as they were building the observatory here.
Oh.
And used to be really heavy into astrophotography. And one night everything broke and I just walked away.
Okay.
So I've discovered smart telescopes, and so I'm interested in the smart telescopes because it doesn't take 2 hours to set them up, which it used to do.
Okay.
So I'm investigating that.
Well, you saw Gordon and Alice over there have a nice comparison for you. There's a $5,000 astrophotography setup versus a $500 astrophotography setup. So
and that's, yeah, I had about $30,000 invested in telescopes.
Yeah.
Everything. So it was interesting.
All right, well, thank you. Welcome here. Anybody else looking around for raised hands? I got one up here.
I guess I was a visitor when I walked in the door, and then I joined. So maybe I'm not a visitor now. I don't know. But I've been interested in astronomy since I was a small child. And in high school, I I ground and built my own, or ground my own telescope mirror and built my own telescope. And I belong to some astronomy clubs in Indiana, and my wife and I just moved here 2 months ago. So now I joined this group and hope to be active here. So.
Okay, well, welcome. Thank you. Anyone else here tonight? We've had 3 so far. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you for the new people here. We're glad to have you here. So, all right. Let's move on. Next slide. Tonight's agenda. So we have just our general announcements, 5 minutes worth. I do them every week, every month. Then we'll have Alice step up here and she'll talk a little bit about our public outreach. Alice is our events coordinator, so she kind of runs that for us. And then we have actually a number of special events. So I think I have 4 slides I think I put in the deck for that. So we have some special events we'll talk about as well. Then we'll take our 7th inning stretch, 10, 15 minutes. We'll kind of see where it is on the clock. And then we have, once again, we have kind of a double header tonight, a double feature. We have 2 speakers. We have Jim Renn, who's in the room with us tonight from the Vatican Observatory. And then joining us remotely via Zoom, we have Peter Birren joining us as well. So you'll hear more about those when Amanda introduces them formally at the beginning of their presentations. General announcements. So this is just the things we always do. So if you are a joiner, apparently the gentleman here in the front row was a joiner because he walked in tonight as a visitor and joined. So anyway, he joined in. If you want to join, you can join at the back table, or you can just go to our website, click on join and follow the instructions. Joining is important because once again, there are dues involved in being a member, and the dues pay the bills. So you like lights? Pays for the lights. You like the laptops, it pays for that. You like snacks and stuff, it pays for snacks and stuff. So joining is very, very important. We thank you when you do so. If you want to know what's happening here at the club, there's at least 4 different ways to know. You can sign up to have event information automatically sent to you via email. And so you can go ahead and go out to our website, click on the subscribe link out there and join it's called the EVAC announce email distribution list. And that's how we send out announcements. In fact, if you're on that list, you saw me email out earlier this week about the All AZ Star Party coming up next month. So that went out on that email alias. Also, I had someone this afternoon say, hey, I'd like to join via Zoom tonight. How do I get the Zoom link? Well, if you sign up for that list there, you will get the Zoom link dropped in your email every month. Usually Tom and Amanda both send an email out about a week apart, so that if you miss one, you will definitely get the second one. Anyway, so there's that way to be informed essentially what's going on. You can actually manually get information as well. Just go out to our website and click on the events and meetings tab, and you get information about what's happening there as well. You can also either automatically or manually get information by signing up for our newsletter or looking manually at the newsletter on our website. So there's another way you can sort of stay informed. Everything I've mentioned so far is essentially the club staff sending messages out to you and you responding. But what if you want to send a message out? You want to say, hey, I got this telescope. I'm trying to sell it for X dollars. Or hey, I'm going to go up to Picket Post. Anybody want to go out to Picket Post tonight? Or I'm going out to Tom Mix. I'm going to do some astrophotography out at the Tom Mix Monument. How do you connect to other people? Facebook. So we do have a Facebook page. You can sign up for it. Notice when I took this screen capture a long time ago, we were up to like 1,000 members or so on that thing. And so this is where you can post and actually reach out to other people in the club, and obviously a lot of people beyond the club as well. So there's over 1,000 people on that Facebook page. All right, if you need a telescope or training, you can also go out to our website, and we have a link out there where you can look at used equipment for sale, and we sell it usually at pretty good prices, and you can actually rent equipment as well. And just in the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 telescopes donated. And Tom, where are we at, Tom? Oh, there's Tom. Tom Jacobs is our property manager. And I just wanted to call out Tom tonight because over the last couple of weeks, I've heard very good things about Tom. So whoever you're interacting with, they like you, Tom. So anyway, so thank you for the job you're doing for us here. Anyway, we've had 2 people actually donate telescopes, and Tom takes a look at them and refurbs them if they need refurbed at all, and then usually turns them around and resells them at a very, very reasonable price. We also have rental equipment as well, and so you can take a look at that. We also have some self-paced astronomy training online. So you can go out to our virtual beginners lab on our website, and there's just self-paced kind of articles you read through to get information about various things. We also offer classes as well. So this is not self-paced, this is for an actual class. And we have a member named James Yoder that typically runs these classes for us. And you can see his email address right there. Well, turns out he's actually starting a class up next month. So he's starting up his beginning telescope class. I talked to James just like Monday or Tuesday of this week and to ask him kind of what the status is. And he said there's still about 5 slots open for this class coming up. You can see the price there, $25 or $35, depending on whether or not you're a member. And there's sort of the details about it. So it starts on October 27th, so just a few days before Halloween. And it's 5 Zoom classes, so you don't even have to leave your house, followed by 4 hands-on telescope nights. Usually they do them here in the park or out at Picket Post, something like that. So anyway, if you want to sign up, once again, just contact James and he'll get you into the class. Alice, you're on. So anyway. It's not fast enough. Run, run, run. Okay, okay.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everyone here and everyone on Zoom. As Steve said, my name is Alice Klobe, and I am the events coordinator for our East Valley Astronomy Club. So what do I think is the greatest thing about our club? Well, I personally think it's our ability to give back to the community and to share our love of astronomy with others. And let's make sure I push the right button. Yes. All right. Our first way that we're able to give back is right down the sidewalk over here at Greco. So it is open every Friday, Saturday night, obviously weather permitting, from sundown until 9:30. You are able to volunteer there, get training to either operate the telescope, or you can crowd control. I say educate, entertain the crowd as they're waiting to get in to view. In order to do that, you will need to contact Claude, who is our observatory manager. And right up there on the screen is his email that you can let him know you're interested and what you're interested in doing. And again, it is per your time, what you have available to do with your schedule. Next is my gig, and this is public outreach. So what is public outreach? Well, we go to nonprofits, mostly community centers, libraries, schools, HOAs, and we share our love of astronomy with guests that are there. So what do you do when you go to these? You can either bring your telescope and your knowledge, or even if you have binoculars, another great way to view the heavens. And when you come and you bring your equipment, you have an object in mind that you want to share with the community there, and you just share that object and tell your guests about why you have that object, what it is, how it was formed, just what knowledge you have of it. If you're not comfortable bringing a telescope or any equipment, I can always use what we're calling helpers, walkers. And these are people who keep our guests, remind them of telescope etiquette, check on our astronomers, make sure they don't need a bathroom break or water, or sometimes it can get pretty crowded with the lines going to the telescopes. And you can just educate your guests while they're in line, answer questions, share what you love about astronomy with them. So 2 ways that you can give back on that. Now, how do you sign up? Go to the free lists. EVAC outreach. I do all of my correspondence with our volunteers via email. So any reminders, any cancellations, or I also give monthly what's coming up for next month at the end of the previous month. That's all done online. All right, moving on. So we have no cool star party pictures for this month because our second Friday star party didn't happen. There's construction going on over by the observatory. All the lawn was blocked off and the sidewalk tore up. So yeah, there's our monthly picture. However, that being said, Upcoming public outreach events, October is busy. I have 6 scheduled star parties for October. The season is starting up. You can also view what's coming up on events and meetings on the calendar on that page on our website, evaconline.org as well. Last but not least, this is what I'm pretty excited about, is we have a new outreach events operations manual. So thank you to Gordon Rosner, who drafted this up. Thank you to our board members and to our elected officials who voted on it, added their input, and it is now available. Go to the About at the very top, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page, and it's right there. Why is this so important? It gives volunteers an understanding of what is outreach, what's expected of you, also what's expected of me, what my responsibilities are for you, and gives you kind of a feeling of what's going on when you show up. So I highly recommend, whether you've been doing outreach for a while or you're brand new, check out the new events operations manual, all right? And as always, I have to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to all of our volunteers who show up to do outreach. We would not have an outreach program if you didn't volunteer your time and your knowledge and your talent. So huge thank you. All right, Steve, all you.
Oh, thank you, Alice. Hang on just a second here. When I got all that chair, I got a 70-year-old knee here and it just went wonky on me. So anyway, okay, there we go. Okay, knees back in shape. All right, thank you, Alice. Upcoming special events, and then we're going to take a break, and then we'll get into our speakers. So right now, there are about 30 of us up on the Mogollon Rim at the Hyman Rim Ranch, enjoying a star party right now. Started on Wednesday, midday, and ends on Sunday morning. And when I wrote this slide, I said, we hope you're experiencing clear skies, calm winds, and mild temperatures. And that's not been exactly true. I actually talked to James this morning, and so far it's been cloudy and rainy. So anyway, apparently the forecast for tonight was a little better. So they have hopes that tonight they can get out from underneath the gazebo area and out of the rain and out underneath the stars. And apparently tomorrow night's forecast looks even a little better. So hopefully they'll get a couple nights of viewing done up there. They're well set up. If you've never been up to the ranch, there's a giant, it's half event hall, half gazebo. It's a giant building, but it only has 2 walls. The other 2 sides are open, but you could probably put 300 people in there, and they're all high and dry, so they're doing fine up there. They took movies and games and all that just in case, so they should be having a good time. We also have 13 of our members who qualified this year for the Starry Rewards Luncheon, and some gifts and whatnot as well. The luncheon will be on October 11th, and all 13 people have already been emailed, so they're aware of it, and so they will be there. We had 7 people that qualified at what we call the Level 1 Stargazer, and then we had 6 more that qualified at the Level 2 Celestial Navigator. And starting next month, you'll be able to see these people, recognize these people, because they'll be wearing new badges. What you'll see is you'll start seeing badges with a series of 1 or more stars across the bottom, and essentially the more points you accumulate because of volunteer events or whatever, the more stars you end up with on your badge. So anyway, so you'll see that a little bit. So I'm looking forward to the luncheon next month, hosting that with the people. So that's happening as well. We have elections. Once again, I kind of broached this subject last month at our meeting, but next month was kind of the last month for get some volunteers, because in November we have elections. And so we have several positions, as you can see there, that are going to be opening up. I've been doing this 2 years now, and according to our bylaws, that means I got to go. I'm term limited. So anyway, we're also going to need a vice president, and we're going to need 3 board members as well. As far as the level of commitment on your time, I kind of gave you some notes down there at the bottom. It's not too much. Notice I didn't put the president there because the president's a little bit more, rather than maybe 2 hours a month. If you're just kind of doing the basics of the job, it's probably at least 2 hours a week. If you're president, if you try to do a little bit more, then the hours can definitely go up from that. So anyhow, just if you're interested in helping out, it's very important because once again, as I said in the first bullet item, the club doesn't run itself. It takes a number of people to get it done. So please volunteer if you haven't already done so, because we need to introduce you to the crowd a little bit, maybe next month, certainly by November, because in November, we're going to have an election. So be aware of that. We also have a star party next month. Our big yearly star party is next month. If you were on the email distribution list, you saw the email about this. I sent it out. I forget whether I sent it on Monday or Tuesday, but I did send it out. I actually posted it on Facebook as well. So we have our big event. It'll be Friday and Saturday, October 24th and 25th. It's at the Observatory Road site, or Observatory Road site out towards Courtside. I have a quick question for everybody in the room and those on Zoom as well. Has anybody in the last couple of weeks been out at Observatory Road? Yeah, anybody in the room been out there? Anybody on Zoom? If you have, please put a message in there. Okay, well, then guess what I'm doing tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm driving out to Observatory Road tomorrow morning. There's been talk about putting a solar farm out there, and they've been doing some mining up just behind the site there, and I just need to go out and verify that everything's available to us in 4 weeks. So anyway, yes. Uh-huh. Okay.
It really, there may not be anybody there now. That mine may be completely inactive, but I do recommend you kind of go a little bit south.
Yeah, away from the mine.
Yeah, get away from that mine because it may still be, but they weren't working at night. And I talked with them at some length, and they were nice. And there are no lights down at the solar farm, or at least there weren't at the end of May.
Okay.
I would be optimistic that it's going to be good.
Okay, well, good. Well, I'm gonna get up at crack of dawn and get it over with, and just get out there and get back early in the morning if I can. But anyway, I do want to verify that. I don't want any surprises next month when we get up there. Oh, it's not available. We have to come up with something else like now. So anyway, not a good thing. All right. So as you can see, we have kind of a standard schedule. We'll have our normal potluck dinner on Friday where you bring stuff and then you can share with others as well. Of course, we'll have observing, assuming it's clear skies, and then we'll have the club will provide, coffee, tea, hot chocolate, and snacks around 10 o'clock usually on the observing nights. On Saturday, we'll have, just games during the day, cornhole, stuff like that, horseshoes, whatever. Then we have our Temperance Union happy hour, which basically means we have a happy hour around 4 o'clock with no alcohol. And then we'll have a build your own taco bar this time around. We'll have our raffle as well. 1 ticket for $1, 6 tickets for $5. It's kind of a bit of a fundraiser for us, is what that is. So definitely bring some raffle money. We did get a grand prize. So we have a 127 millimeter Matsukoff Cassegrain telescope. Skywatcher donated it to us. So big thanks to the folks at Skywatcher. That was a tough thing for them to do this year. They're like a lot of businesses are struggling with certain economic uncertainties with tariffs and whatnot going on right now. So initially they said no, but they came back and said yes. So we have a telescope now. So that's nice. We actually got some other prizes already lined up as well. So we'll definitely have a nice raffle, I think. And then if you're for the dinner, the taco bar, it's like $5 for the dinner. So it's what we're going to do there. That's mostly kind of a cost recovery thing is what that is. So anyway, the only thing on site other than what you bring will be 2 porta potties in the hand wash station. And those that have been out there before, you're familiar with what we do. We put a couple porta potties kind of in the central area. It's a large area kind of in the middle. And then we have a hand wash station there with a foot pump where you can wash your hands after you use the restroom and all that. Anything else, you bring it. So food, water, tent. Telescope. You probably want to bring a telescope too. So anyway, so that's what's going on out there. So that is our All Days Star Party. You'll see a couple more emails and a couple more Facebook posts about that over the coming weeks. Just keep it in the forefront of your mind. So there's that. All right, we are at our first break. So record time, it's only 25 after 7.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Okay, our first speaker comes from the Vatican Observatory. Jim Renn has lectured in astronomy for over 50 years. He's been giving presentations on faith and science for 8 years, and he was a member of the board of directors at the Vatican Observatory Foundation. So please welcome Jim Renn.
Good evening, and thank you for joining me. I'm Jim from the Vatican Observatory. My job is outreach. Many people tell me, in fact, most people that I speak with, they're not aware that the Vatican has an observatory. They don't know that the Pope has a telescope. And the Pope does have a telescope, and I'll give the details of why I said it that way. Now, I'm going to present the history and legacy of the Vatican Observatory, who we are, and how the Vatican has supported the astronomy since 1582. Now, to begin with, here's a photo of our observatory on Mount Graham, a little bit northeast of Tucson. Inside is the Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, the VAT. It's been in operation since 1993. I'll give you some details about that telescope also. Okay. Yeah.
Why it's being uncooperative all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay. So which tab did you use?
You can use
Down.
down arrow or forward arrow.
Okay, thank you. Something we often forget. We are part of nature. We are products of the universe. Thus, we are intimately related to all that is. Carl Sagan says, we are star stuff. His statement sums up the fact that the carbon, nitrogen, and oxygen atoms in our bodies, as well as the atoms in all the heavenly elements in our solar system, were created in previous generations of stars over 4.5 billion years ago. This is the Pillars of Creation stellar nursery in the Eagle Nebula. Stars are born in stellar nurseries that are composed of gas and dust. The stars live, they die, and sometimes in a massive explosion called a nova, meaning a new star, leave remnants, gas and dust, for a new star to be born. Now, our sun is a third-generation star. It was created from the remnants of 2 generations of stars that were born and died, to allow our star, the sun, to grow with its life-sustaining heavy elements that support our human life. We are literally, as Sagan says, made of star stuff. Now today, the gentleman on the black outfit is Brother Guy Consolmagno, the current director of the observatory. He's retiring today. But in 2015, Pope Francis, who we see here with Brother Guy, appointed him as director of the observatory. Now, what's important about the 10 years that Brother Guy has been in charge of the observatory is that he teaches that trust or lack of trust in science, lack of trust. But remember, science is not perfect. In fact, it can be and will be sometimes wrong. What is important is that each of us need to understand what science can and cannot do. Now, we're not all scientists. Maybe some of you are. If you have a question about a scientific topic, do the research. Don't rely on just one source. For each scientific topic, there are many opinions. So just don't rely on one source. Because science is not truth. Science is finding the truth. When science changed its opinion, it did not lie to you. It learned more. People don't trust science because they say, well, someone 20, 30 years ago had this theory, and now someone has a different theory. Well, again, science didn't lie with the old theory. Today, the new theory is because science learned more. Science cannot tell us how we have anything that exists at all, or how we have the order and laws of nature that exist. It cannot tell us why there is anything. Science presupposes existence and order. It cannot explain existence or order. Again, it cannot tell us why. There is something instead of nothing. Father George Coyne was director of the observatory from 1978 to 2006. He was a frequent lecturer on matters of faith and science. One of his famous quotes, "We are able to put the universe in our heads." In us, creation is thinking about itself. We evolve in our ability to understand creation. We evolve to the point where we can put the universe in our heads. Now, this stern gentleman is Christopher Clavius, a member of the Vatican. In 1582, when the calendar was replaced, the old Julian calendar created by Julius Caesar in 45 BC, it was replaced by a new calendar under the direction of the Pope, Pope Gregory XIII. Now, creating a calendar to keep track of time, months, years, seasons can be complicated. The Julian calendar calculated incorrectly that the length of the solar year, the time it takes Earth to complete one full orbit about the sun, was precisely 365.25 days long, according to the old Roman astronomers. But it's not. It's about 11 minutes less. Now, Caesar's calendar did include leap day every 4 years. But over the centuries, from 45 BC to 1582, there were too many leap days. And that made the calendar move ahead of calendar dates for, as an example, the equinoxes. And equinoxes are important for determining the date for Easter. In fact, when the new calendar went into effect in October of 1582, 10 days were deleted from the Julian calendar, and the new Gregorian calendar was put into effect. Now, not all countries agreed with the new Gregorian calendar. In fact, it took maybe a century for some countries to make the new Gregorian calendar their calendar. There are many different reasons. There were some philosophical, some religious, but eventually, today, we have the Gregorian calendar, and it is accurate for 3,000 years. In 1888, the French astronomer Camille Flammarion published this wood engraving by an unknown artist. It depicts a man during the Middle Ages who has reached the point in his journey where the flat earth meets the firmament, that is, the celestial barrier that separates the heavens from the earth below. When humans first looked to the heavens, we have been curious about our place in creation through both scriptures and the science of our time. Now, we don't know if we don't know the artist, and we don't know exactly if that was what the artist was trying to tell us. But here we have a person sticking their head through the firmament to look at the celestial wonders, and we can do the same today, except we don't have to stick our head through a firmament. The Italian scientist Galileo Galilei is known as the father of observational astronomy, that is with a telescope. In 1609 was when he turned his very crude telescope to the heavens. Now, a telescope has been used about a year or two before, but no one turned it to the heavens. They were just looking at the surrounding landscape and at the ships on the sea. And what's important about Galileo is that he supported a controversial theory published in 1543 by Nicholas Copernicus. Now, Copernicus believed that it was the sun rather than the earth that resides at the center of the universe. And it was believed at that time that the solar system, the sun, the moon, the planets, were the entire universe. Now, there were two conflicting theories at the time that Galileo was trying to teach. There was the geocentric or earth-centered and heliocentric, sun-centered theory. Now, since the time of Aristotle, the geocentric theory was the dominant theory. Yes, there were many people that understood that no, the earth moved, it was not the center of creation, but there were so many people, including the Vatican, that believed what Aristotle was teaching. Now, Galileo was put on trial, actually two trials. In the second trial, in 1633, he was convicted of heresy and sentenced to house arrest. Now, Galileo quoted scripture. He was not trained in scripture, but he used scripture to support his position. Because the Vatican and Galileo, that interface, it was really about a clash of one dominant theory is that they were humans. Egos got in the way of each trying to support their position. Now, here's an example of two competing theories. We have the geocentric, I like to call it the egocentric. We're in the center, aren't we? That's what it appears to many people. Whatever you want. Sun-centered. Earth, sun. I'm sure that, you know, all the astronomers here understand that, but that was what was really the gist of the trial about whether the sun or the earth was the center of creation. Galileo, as I was mentioning, was not trained in theology, but he chose to quote Vatican Cardinal Caesar Borronius, who said, "Scripture teaches us how to go to heaven, not how the heavens go. The Vatican Observatory is and has been a scientific research institution dedicated to seeking truth, which can be known naturally using our natural human powers of observation. Interesting. Today, the Catholic Church, the Vatican, believes that the original scriptures in their original languages are free from error, but insofar as they convey the truth that God intended for the sake of human salvation. Scriptures are personal, at least the Vatican is trying to teach us. Descriptions of natural phenomena are not to be taken as inspired scientific assertions, but they reflect the language and contemporary understanding of the writers of Scripture. The writers of Scripture, beginning 3 millennia ago, were not scientists. They knew very little about science. Sure, they could look at the heavens and the skies and see how everything move in the sky, the sunrise and sunset. And then some of them are inspired by their God to write about creation. Well, creation is a physical phenomenon. Scripture is not. Scripture is, again, a personal message from what we believe is the Creator about salvation. Now, an example of the Vatican's support for science was that during the 18th and 19th centuries, the observatory telescopes were located in Rome. And in 1891, a new observatory was built on the north wall at the edge of the Vatican City. And the new Vatican Observatory remained there for 40 years. So, popes are very supportive. Now, at the end of the 19th century, the Pope and the Church were being challenged by rationalist scholars. Now, rationalism believes that reason is a primary source of knowledge. And they said that some discoveries made by nature, the natural science, contradict the Bible, and they do. But in 1891, we see here Pope Leo XIII, who said, to counter the accusation that there was a conflict between the church and science, on March 14, 1891, he issued a personal decree that reestablished the Vatican Observatory. In Latin, it is the Specula Vaticana. The decree states, the purpose for which the specula exists is that everyone might see that the church is not opposed to true and solid science, whether human or divine, but the church embraces it. That is true today. Almost 100 years later, in 1988, Pope John Paul II wrote a letter to the Vatican Observatory. He said, science can purify religion from error and superstition. Religion can purify science from idolatry and false absolutes. Each can draw from the other into a wider world, a world which both can flourish. They're not mutually exclusive. There is no war between faith and science, according to the Vatican. Some people, now, individuals within a particular religious faith may perceive that there was a battle for truth between faith, and science. The Vatican was never took that position. Even with Galileo, there were some of the people in the Vatican that said, well, you know, we'll change or modify our position about creation if if Galileo could prove that scientifically, you know, he was right. Unfortunately, with his crude early telescopes, Galileo could not prove that the sun was the center. In fact, if you look at the, well, let's see here, geocentric versus heliocentric, calculating mathematically, it almost fits better what we observe in the sky with the naked eye and crude telescopes, that the Earth is in the center and other objects orbit about the Earth. Now let's take a look at one of the historic Vatican telescopes. From 1891 to 1953, this Vatican telescope participated in the Carte du Ciel, the Map of the Heavens program. This program was an international astronomical project that included telescopes from 22 countries to photograph and map the positions of millions of stars. This telescope was originally in Vatican City. Now, the Vatican Observatory is and has been an equal opportunity employer. In 1909, the director of the observatory needed someone or some people to catalog the star images on the telescope photographic plates. The director learned that European and American observatories were already using women to do the work. The ladies were referred to as lady computers because they had the skill needed to determine the coordinates from the photographic plates. Now, for the Vatican, they called upon nuns. There were 4 sisters, only 3 are shown here, but there were 4 sisters of the Order Holy Child Mary, who meticulously looked at each photographic plate under an oculus, and they cataloged each dot, little smudge on a photographic plate in a coordinate system so that they could give coordinates to each star on that plate. Now, their work of the Vatican predates other women who worked for NASA during the 1960s as human computers. The story of the NASA African-American mathematicians was told in the book and the movie Hidden Figures. I highly recommend the book and the movie. In the 20th century, the church continued an effort to counter the misconception about a war between science and religion. The strongest counter-argument was the work of many Catholic scientists. Notable is Father George Lemaitre, a Belgian Catholic priest, shown here with Albert Einstein, who used Einstein's equations to publish a theory in 1927, a theory of an expanding universe. This theory later became known as the Big Bang Theory, the origin of the universe. Now, Father Lemaitre said, just as Pope John Paul would say 50 years later, theology and science can work best as a dialogue in partnership to search for the truth. Early debates about the sun-centered versus earth-centered controversy, interesting enough, omitted a very important aspect of creation. Both arguments, the earth-centered, sun-centered, indicated the universe was static. Nothing moved. Well, sure, the planets moved, the moon orbited, there were meteors and and there were comets, but the structure of the universe was static. Today, science understands that the universe expands and continues to expand. Even Einstein initially rejected the concept of a dynamic, expanding universe. When he went to Mount Wilson in the late 1920s, he was able to look through the telescope, and the astronomers there taught him what they were able to see through the telescopes and convinced him that, yes, the universe is expanding. Shown here is Castle Gandolfo, 16 miles southeast of Rome, and since the early 1600s, it has been the summer retreat for popes. Now, in 1935, because the increasing light of Rome made it impossible to do telescope research, Pope Pius XI moved his telescopes from the Vatican to his castle in Castle Gandolfo. Now, interesting, when popes would stay at the castle, and the Vatican astronomers used to live in the building above the Pope's quarters on the top 2 floors, they would say that they were the only Catholics higher than the Pope. A very important part of the papacy during World War II. During the German occupation of Rome, the Pope opened Castle Gandolfo, including his personal official apartments, to some 15,000 refugees, mostly women and children. Among the people taking shelter were many, again, importantly, Roman Jews. Now, just as the Vatican had to move their telescope from Rome to Castle Gandolfo, because the city lights of Rome made it impossible for astronomers to use their telescopes for research, in 1987, because of the need for a new telescope, the Vatican Observatory Foundation was established in Tucson, Arizona, to fund the construction of a new Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope, referred to as the VAT, V-A-T-T. Now, here we see Pope John Paul II with a model of the proposed Pope scope. Now, the gentleman next to him is Father George Coyne, who I mentioned. And the man next to him, Professor Roger Angel. Roger Angel was the scientist that developed a new process about how to cast a telescope reflecting mirror. Now, at the time that Professor Angel was doing his casting, he was in a laboratory located in a former synagogue in Tucson. And the Vatican likes to say that the Pope's telescope was built by an angel in a synagogue. The telescope was dedicated by Pope John Paul II in 1993. Now, our Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope utilizes some of the most advanced innovative optics available. It's not a large telescope, it's a 72-inch reflecting mirror. It was fabricated using a revolutionary spin casting and polishing technology that instead of just pouring into a mold, the mold was spinning, which allowed a curvature that was of the exact configuration needed to have perfect optics. Now, for those of you who understand, I'm sure most of you do, reflecting telescopes, the focal length is focal length 1. And it's, again, it's made possible by the new technology. There's a deeply concave mirror allowing for such a short focal length. There we see the top of Mount Graham, the Vatican telescope in southeast Arizona. It's at an elevation of over 10,000 feet. Sky conditions are perfect for astronomy. Now, recent modernization included a remote observing capability. So astronomers don't actually have to go to the top of the mountain to observe. A technician can program a telescope. Astronomers can sit in their office in Tucson or anywhere in the world and run the telescope because of the remote operating capability. Now, also on top of Mount Graham is the large binocular telescope of the University of Arizona. It has two giant 8-meter mirrors, and it's one of the largest optical telescopes in the world. Bereshit, in the beginning. But we can never know how the universe was created. We'll never know how it began. Science believes the universe was created 13.8 billion years ago. But because the early universe was so hot, so dense, it was impossible for light to exist. There was nothing to be seen at the very beginning. The Big Bang was the beginning of the expansion of the universe 13.8 billion years ago. But it was not the beginning, the Big Bang happened after the creation event. And I'll talk about that in a minute. The Big Bang was not an explosion, but it was expansion. So as you can see here, three-dimensional. Think of it. Sorry. Okay. Pardon me. So creation is expanding. Now, the early universe, this is the cosmic microwave background radiation. It is radiation from 380,000 years after the beginning, after the Big Bang started, after the universe started to expand. Now, the early universe was uniform, but not completely uniform. We have specks of different temperatures and pressures. And as the universe cooled, it was incredibly hot, like millions and millions of degrees Fahrenheit. As it cooled, these areas condensed into matter, solid matter, and they formed the stars, and the stars created the planets and all the other objects in the universe. Sorry. Okay. Today, almost 14 billion years later, the Earth, our home, is part of a galaxy, an island universe, and over 100 billion stars. Our island universe, the Milky Way galaxy, is just one of 100 billion to 2 trillion galaxies. Now, just in the last 10, 20 years, the estimate of the number of galaxies has increased exponentially from 100 to 200 billion to possibly 2 trillion because of the advanced optics that we have available to us. We can see and understand more of this universal expansion. We can understand more and see more of the galaxies that populate everywhere we look in the universe. NASA just announced that they have officially found 6,000 exoplanets. That is, planets orbiting stars other than our sun. But they are many light years away. And a light year, I'm sure most of you know, is 6 trillion miles. The closest star system, Centauri, Alpha Centauri, is 4 light years. Then it goes out farther. In our galaxy is 100,000 light years in diameter. So speculation is rampant about whether any of those worlds and any of those 100,000 stars, and each star scientists have come to understand usually have planets. But the question is, and I'm sure you look at the media, are any of those home to life as we know it? Is ET out there? Now, this is a whole different topic that I can talk about, but today I just want to leave you with the thought that there might be other worlds with other life forms, and eventually we hope to be able to contact those life forms. It's estimated that the universe is very young and will continue to exist for trillions of years. So we have about 14 billion light years of existence. Stars are going to continue to be born, live, and die for another trillion years. And yes, the drawing conjectures, after the Earth dies some 5 billion years from now, after it is burnt to crisp, even swallowed by the sun, there will be other worlds and stars that still exist and coming into existence. And those new worlds will know nothing of a place once called Earth. We're important. We're important. We will be important. But eventually, we're not going to be around to be important, because there's going to be other worlds, we hope, that will be important. And we hope that while we're still around, we can find those other worlds. Astronomers at the Vatican Observatory are often asked if God created the universe. Now, former director George Coyne provided what I believe is the definitive answer, and his famous reply, "I don't know." He said, "Science cannot prove whether God does or does not exist." He's both a priest and astronomer. As a scientist, as an astronomer, he cannot prove God exists, which is very important. Now, what do you see when you go out at night and look to the heavens or enjoy the beauty of a sunset? We are constantly evolving and learning about our place in creation. And if there is a creator, and I'll say if, I can't prove it, the best way to learn about a creator is to learn about the creation. So the director, Brother Guy Consolmagno, says that. Learning about creation helps us learn about the creator. Now, we're never going to know about if there is a creator, we're never going to know about that creator. The creator, we believe, is what's called ineffable. Ineffable, cannot be understood. We base our belief on faith. Our Judeo-Christian heritage dates back 3 millennia. And therefore, our faith does influence our science. Now, Father Steger, who I gave an earlier quote, says, astronomy reveals a vast, complex, and very ancient universe in which we appear very tiny and possibly insignificant. But faith, if you have faith, we believe faith reveals a God who deeply treasures and cares for each creature. 3,000 years of Judeo-Christian heritage, faith influences our science. I believe creation is special. I look out at each night at the heavens, and I marvel at the beauty of the cosmos. Yes, my faith does influence my science. And I believe if there is a God, God does not create what he will not love. All of creation is sacred. I want to thank you for joining me tonight and have a great evening. Thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned the Gregorian calendar will be accurate for about 3,000 years. I'm wondering what happens after that. Why wouldn't it be accurate after 3,000 years?
Oh, okay. Because as was incorrect in 45 BC with the Julian calendar and was corrected in 1582 by the Gregorian calendar, that means that the Earth is not in a precise orbit. Again, a solar year is not 365 and a quarter days. It's about 11 hours, minutes shorter. So what we're going to see is the Earth in this, as it precesses, it's going to change minutely, but still in 3,000 years, there might need to be an adjustment of, well, for instance, leap years. There might have to be an adjustment.
Since there's two separate facilities up there. Does the Vatican have any kind of timeshare financial interest in the LBT?
No.
It's like the universities?
Thank you for mentioning the LBT. The LBT is a University of Arizona telescope. And the University of Arizona has supported the Vatican Observatory, again, they provided the mirror for our telescope. So they basically own the mirror that they built in that synagogue. You know, the Pope's telescope was by an angel in a synagogue. But as far as financial, they own the mirror.
Is there any collaboration between the two?
Absolutely. The staff of the Vatican Observatory, most of the astronomers are on staff at the University of Arizona Department of Astronomy. So yes, there's very close collaboration. Yes, thank you for asking.
Can you give an example of a particular research project that is actually being done at the Vatican or the Vatican Observatory on Mount Graham?
Yes, yeah, what very important program is tracking asteroids and near Earth objects, specifically near Earth asteroids that are near Earth objects. Near Earth objects, of course, are asteroids that come very close to the Earth. And we have a dedicated team of astronomers, part of the observing staff, who track and try to discover new near Earth objects. You might have seen the movie Look Up. Well, that was a near Earth object. What is important is that there have been instances, for instance, an near Earth object 56 million years ago impacted the Earth and led to the destruction of the dinosaurs. In 19, I think it's 1909, in Tunguska, Siberia, a near-Earth object entered the Earth's atmosphere and it exploded, and it was an air explosion, and laid waste to hundreds of square miles of Siberia. It's very important that they track these objects and determine. Now, there's something called a Torino scale, Torino, and that Torino scale, after a meeting in Italy, Torino, Italy, determines what impact a asteroid, a near-Earth object, asteroid, will have if it enters the Earth's atmosphere. It could be another 56 million years ago impact where the dinosaurs died. It could be an impact where we die. So yes, that's a very important observation program.
Thank you so much, Jim. We do need to get started with our next speaker. So if you guys have questions, feel free to find him after the meeting. If you want to email him as well, I can get you that information. All right, we are going to get Peter lined up to speak next.
Pleasure speaking to, EVAC today. It's a hard act to follow the Vatican. They've got a little bit more history than I do. I mean, I've only been reaching for the heavens since 1956. So, that's not really a whole lot of work on my part compared to theirs. Before I get started, I want to mention that, you had mentioned early on what the favorite object is. And a friend of mine and I used to go out all the time. And at the end of the night, we'd each pick the sight of the night. And I was out with my obsession last night. And my object of the night was Carolyn's Rose in Cassiopeia. And just a fun little object. I started with the 27 mil Nagler and went to a 17 and then to a 9 mil, and it's just a pretty object to view. And I said that's pretty enough. That I can put my scope away and be happy with that. I am impressed for the club there with with your website and your social media contacting. It's just a wonderful job there. And your beginners lab, that's awesome. What a terrific thing. Only other club I know that does anything near that, and I don't even think they get to that level, is Naperville Astronomical Association up near Chicago. So let me get into it. My book is titled Objects in the Heavens. And as far as I went to get to doing it, it's learning astronomy the hard way. And that's who I am. This is the latest copy, version 7. I've been, it's after 25 years, I've made it this far, and I keep going to it. I never really set out at the beginning to have a book that'd be a guide for small telescopes or binoculars of any sort, but it just happened. As these things go, it took on a life of its own. And speaking about binoculars, I'm sure many of you have been here staring up at the sky, as I was one night, and realized that I had no idea, absolutely no idea what I was looking at. When I was 9 years old, my dad pointed out Mars in the sky, and in 56. 10 years later, I was in the Air Force, and I got to witness the 1966 Leonid meteor storm. It was just fabulous. But and then when I was overseas, I was able to pick out the Magellanic Clouds, because I was right near the equator, and that's loads of fun. Thank you, Uncle Sam. And finally, I saw Jupiter in a friend's telescope, and I said, I got to learn more about this. So, geez, didn't we see this somewhere before? This was originally done, if you notice at the bottom of this, it's Urbi et Orbi. It's from the city, and the city in this case being Rome, from the city to the world. Is the title of this piece, but that's how I pretty much felt. So I started out, I didn't know about clubs, didn't know what books to get. So I headed for the library and started making my own little lists of things that I might be able to see with small binoculars or a small telescope. And here's my first attempt at just cataloging what I might be able to see. And well, as a graphic designer, and as the list kept growing, these list items needed organizing. And so, so the project itself was born. And what started it? Well, it was curiosity, of course. I think that does it for a lot of people. What do I want? And then, it's a frustration with looking at all the magazines and incomplete resources. For example, in various magazines that I would sit down in the library and take a whole handful and go through them. And, here's a constellation, and here are the open clusters that are in that constellation. Okay, well, what about nebulas and galaxies and globular clusters? There was nothing that had everything to it. So I set out to create an orderly, in my mind, an orderly list, and stumbled along on my own. Looking at the star charts, trying to make heads or tails of them. I still can't figure this one out. I can to some degree now, but back then it was like, this was all Greek to me, or Arabic. I found Uranometria, but they had all these, 25,895 galaxies down to magnitude 15. Well, by this time I had a small 6-inch telescope, and there was absolutely no way I was going to go down to 16, but what can we see? So I kept looking around. Here's, I believe this is Norton's maps. They blended the stars and objects, which for me made things hard to find. I'm looking for some objects here, and okay, I found M57, but if you notice, I think my M57 over here in an obvious place to many of us now, but it's listed as 57M, along with all the other stars that are in there. So I found that to be not really useful. Taki's Mag 7 project really, showed a lot of stars, but it still didn't do it for me. So why continue with a book? Well, I had conversations with other amateurs, which said that that they were looking for something such as what I was looking for. And I finally got the first edition together and received positive feedback. So I kept going, and well, every day turned up something, quote, new, although it's been up there for a long time. So when after the initial version 1, I set up some stricter parameters that I keep the objects pretty close to Mag 10 in this book, and by version 7, I do have some that go up to 10.5, but not a whole lot. And I'm going to limit it to the Northern Hemisphere because in magnitude 10 in Northern Hemisphere, that'll keep a book that's manageable in size. And a few abbreviations. After going through Burnham's, and trying to understand fully all the abbreviations that were used. You have to study it every time you go into it, and it's just a full armload of them. So let's keep them simple and just have a few. Useful information, simply formatted, just enough to whet one's appetite to learn some more about, and then to answer the question, what is it and where is it? And I began to develop a book that would be useful at the scope. So, well, here's a comparison. Oh, contents. Yes, contents. We got to do contents. Here's what I came up with. So the basic observing details, that's in the front of the book. This is in the order that it goes. Cross references, the moon, seasonal star maps, and then constellations arranged alphabetically with the different items, the major stars, double stars, carbon stars, messier objects, NGCs, and then objects from 37 other catalogs. Here on the left, you can see this is my first attempt. The maps were awful small and the listings were quite abbreviated. So now after 25 years, I've expanded the book considerably, as you'll see, because we'll go into it a little bit more. And I've kept the format of, on the left side is a list of objects in that constellation. Now Cygnus is one that takes up two full spreads. And if you notice the Cygnus map, I maintain focus on the objects so that when you're looking for NGC 6811 or 7039, whether they're globular clusters, open clusters, mag 7 or brighter. Those are the little diamond shapes with a circle around it. Those are the brighter objects. So if you're in a city looking with binoculars, perhaps, those are the ones you're most likely to get. And the other ones are a bit dimmer. And let me go up one here, and you can see that here we get to mag 10. Mag 7 objects or brighter are done in bold, so that for the city objects we can get in and find those easily for that quick night's viewing. A little tour through the book, if you don't mind. Dedications go out to all those, to many of the sources that helped in the making of objects in the heavens. And while in doing this, on a personal note, I found out that I went to the same high school as Jack Horkheimer. So when I sign my books, I sign it to the individual and keep looking up, Jack's oft-said admonition. My father even used that to me, keep looking up. And that helped me in my business as well as a designer, just keep it going. Photos were graciously provided by Naoyuki Kurita, a photographer in Japan. In the introduction page down here, I go into a little line about Sidney J. Harris, who was a late columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, which is also a late newspaper, but he wrote an occasional column entitled Things I Learned on the Way to Learning Other Things. An approach like this to satisfying one's curiosity about all things, keeping an open mind to learn from whatever comes along, provides a good starting point in astronomy, and it helped me a lot, as well as most any other endeavor. And so, as we go on into the book, the brief descriptions hopefully are enough to get the reader to look more into it and to find out more what it is about it. How they, I think the right page here pretty much speaks for itself how the book is organized, so you don't get lost. So I don't get lost either. In an effort to keep the symbols and the abbreviations as brief as possible, I came up with these little symbols for stars, for carbon stars, Struve designations, binocular and telescope objects, and then how to just to keeping it short. And here's the map symbols, keeping them simple. And objects in the heavens 7.0 by the numbers. Now from originally from 588 objects in just going into version 2 to 761 objects to Mag 10 and 197, which brings it to Mag 7. So that's quite a bit to be able to use for easy binocular reach, but then 262 binocular class objects, thanks to several books on binocular viewing that helped with that. And then other things, galaxies, open clusters, globulars, nebulae, asterisms. And then we'll get into just briefly on the lunar targets. And the book, Objects in the Heavens, the northern sky have these bold face here for 66 out of the 88 constellations. I did a review on what it would take to do a southern sky, and just the southern sky alone, there is so much down there, but it's so far out of reach. So where do I limit this? When I talk about a northern sky, I have objects listed to -40 degrees of declination, and then I go gradually brighter to -45. So, that'll give you an indication of how far south we go. This next spread is something that I learned from, where are we? Yeah, from many public outreach programs that I participated in and open viewing sessions, observing sessions. I developed these star stories to help myself and the reader and talking about the sky itself, to present larger swaths of the sky to remember the different constellations and how they relate to others. And we'll see a couple of things that I've found here, but with the summer triangle and the winter triangle and the winter hexagon, and a fanciful story to remember how that all goes together. Right now we're in the summer here. So one way that I found to remember these little constellations up here, if you don't catch them right away, there's a couple of objects in them, but to remember Vega, Vulpecula, Sagitta, Delphinus, and Equus, it's a toy story. A toy store. They're the little ones, and it just makes an easy way for me to remember. And when I'm talking to people about, to bring these all together and to see the sky more as a whole rather than, oh, here's Cygnus, let's focus on Cygnus. Although, as we go along in our viewing, that's what we do. But you want to know that Vulpecula is right next door and Vega is next door. So when you've exhausted what you can see in Cygnus, hop over to Lyra or down to these others. Now on to a couple of things that I have discovered, and that's one of these is the Big Bird. I found this a couple of years ago, some time ago, with the old, it was in the north to northwest sky in late summer as it is now. And I looked up and I saw a big bird, and it was the biggest thing I had seen. The old adage of follow the arc to Arcturus, but then you bounce up to these other bright stars and it makes the full bird. And it's one of the largest asterisms in the sky that I've been able to find. The other big one, I just found this last year, and that's the summer diamond, a different way of finding Polaris. And it makes a diamond, and when Ursa Major, the Big Dipper, when it's near the horizon or below the horizon, as it could be depending on where you're at, the summer triangle is still in the sky for a greater length of time, and just an easier way to find Polaris. So that's one of my two of my discoveries. One of the biggest problems that I had from the early 70s until probably 1995, so almost 25 years of frustration, was never really understanding what was meant by right ascension. I just didn't get it. I had nobody to help me with it. I had a couple of books I referred to, and there was nothing that kept it simple. Like when you face north, the stars ascend on your right. How hard can that be? But all these sources that I reviewed and read just tried to make a real big deal out of it. And while it is, and it helps you with the addresses and everything, it just flummoxed me and kept me from going farther. Yeah. So in much of the rest of the book, at least in this front section, is assembling the facts, putting all those little details that have to do with astronomy all in one place. Let's talk about a field of view, or what power, what's the Dawes limit is, and how you can see things, and how you can split doubles, the resolving power of different size telescopes. What different types of just basic scopes there are, how to use setting circles or grading the skies. Thank you to the Saguaro Astronomy Club for this particular scale. And then bring all the different beyond basic filters, and what are the alternatives and how they can be used, and sort of bring them all in one place to have the facts. Jack Webb's nothing but the facts, man. Just give me the facts. And that goes for the planets too. They're up there, but this book isn't big enough to go into everything, into the fluid movement of the planets the way many others do. But then comes, along with distances and sizes, my personal big three that I've done a couple of presentations on, and that's size, speed, and distance. Any one of which can just blow your mind if you get into them. I mean, from Earth's moon and moves up, and here's Earth, and then you take Earth and go up from there, and then take Jupiter and go up from there, and here's the sun. Oops, pardon me. Sun and Sirius to Aldebaran, and Aldebaran to Betelgeuse, and Betelgeuse to Stephenson 2-18, into which approximately 10 billion of our suns can fit. It's just the size. And if our sun was in the center of Stephenson 2-18, the outer diameter would approximately be out to Uranus. And how far is that? Let's see, here's Uranus, mean distance from the sun in 1,790,000 miles, more than 19 AU. And that's just the radius. So, just the size relationships, the distances and some speeds, and then our planets themselves. including Pluto, if you don't mind. Then we get into the stars. Again, the stars, and I kind of list them, their brightness rank over on the right here, and some details, what constellation they're in, the magnitude, distance from Earth in light years, how much more brighter than the sun they are. If they're doubles, what their separation is, or the diameter compared to the sun, or their mass compared to the sun. Star types and their colors and their lifetimes, how long they live. And it's just, I found that to be an interesting little chart. I have the Astronomy League 100 plus a whole bunch more double stars that are of interest I've uncovered, along with a great deal of supergiants and carbon stars. And they're listed either in the list themselves or just in the maps. And if they have an asterisk, it's just in the map. Deep sky objects types, Messier index, and with a suggested Messier marathon list. So I've tried this. I have never completed a Messier marathon, and still hoping I get it someday, But at my age, I have a complete cross-reference in the book for every object, including other than NGCs. The star ratings, Phil Harrington's star asterisms ratings, King, International Catalog, Hefner, I see Burke, Basil, Crumpler, Jorg. And then here's a chart of the different observatories and catalogs that I've listed here, and their abbreviations. Common names of stars and objects that are not over in the other ones, plus the Albireo types over here, keeping it just the facts. And then I get into the moon section, which I think should be in a different place in the book, but it's good. But that follows, hello. There we go. Back to major meteor showers. These are the major ones. I got to tell you, I hit that Leonids in 1966 and estimated at over 2,000 per hour. It was incredible. And then I think it was 1994, I went to a hilltop east of Macomb, Illinois, and I lost count at 400 just in 1 hour. Boy, it was cold. And meteor colors and what their chemical elements are. So getting into the moon, arranged by the approximate viewing date, details on the moon, primary, secondary, intermediate craters, the ages, and the numbers here are where the Apollo missions land. Those are landing sites. Not that we're going to be able to see them, but that's where they are. And then I get on with, I came to this arrangement thanks to help from Alan Dyer. I had it where it was four images, and I tried to get all the details in on that, and it was just too small to work with. So by breaking them down like this, and then to take the waxing moon and the waning moon, the similar shadow line terminator. So you can pick it up from either time for viewing. And then we get into 4 spreads on the seasons, and then with its associated objects of Mag 7 or brighter. Again, for more easy viewing, especially when you can't go really deep because you've got just a small instrument to work with. These are your primaries, and then what page they're on in the book. And then Virgo, this will be my last spread from the book itself. Objects in Virgo were so numerous. especially up in here, and my favorite, which is the realm of the galaxies. It required its own map to lead on to Markarian's chain. And when you got this at the scope and you find 84 and 86, make that reverse C and you pick up about 13 to 14 galaxies. That's really fun to do. And then wandering around and catching all the others. I doubt if these crosses here make 12 to 15, but that's where they are. They're just so numerous. And of course, continued, that goes on into another half spread over there. Kind of, oh, there's the map itself. Don't really. Spreads, by the way, I have spreads on multiple pages on Cygnus, Monoceros, Puppis, Sagittarius, Scorpius, and Ursa Major, plus Virgo, of course. You know, there's a lot more in the book that I haven't shown here. Obviously, I'm not going to, you know, go on each page, you know, but a number of your club members already have the book. Jim Yoder, Andy Wolf, and Andrea Matthias. And I want to thank them, especially Jim, for you know, setting this all up. I'll be presenting, by the way, at the Hyman Rim Ranch tomorrow for those guys. So back to this, but you know, to be able to see this is just, you know, I use this quite often in the spring. My favorite time to be out galaxy hunting. And the back of the book, sketching rings. I have 14 different sketching rings, which I use. I'm not great at it, but I'll use them and to the best of my ability. And but I had a couple of comments from readers that it wasn't enough because some, you know, people like to do it. So I made a separate book just on for sketching, for writing down your night's goals, if you want, you know, particular goals, and as a logbook. So up here, I've reviewed dozens of different lists and drawing templates and came up with these that uses probably just all the best information, you know, from the site, date, time, weather, transparency, seeing or darkness, you know, however you want to do it, your telescope and eyepiece, and on and on. So, you know, to get some other things, put your finder view here and drawing your object here. Now, for some people, well, I got to say that sketching is a terrific aid, but I'm not the only one to say that. William Herschel, and I mentioned my favorite site last night was Carolyn's Rose, and that's Carolyn Herschel. But William Herschel said sketching is a great aid in learning to see. And learning to see really is a big key to visual astronomy. What is it, where is it, and what can I actually see? And if you take the time to see, it's what works. Reverend T.W. Webb, who provided me with introductions to each of the constellations, said, don't be discouraged by the ignorance of drawing. You can draw, boy, you know, in so many different ways, whether you're using pencil, ballpoint pen, chalk, or white grease pencil on black paper. You know, your time at the eyepiece will certainly bring out more detail. And you don't want to be discouraged by it. So just, you know, draw what you see, take your time. And yeah, it's an art form in itself, which must be learned. Thank you, William Herschel. And he admonishes, take your time. And the more time at the eyepiece, the more you will see, because you'll train your eye to see. And boy, oh boy, no matter what the instrument, your eyeballs, binoculars, or telescopes, slow down and let your eyes absorb those ancient photons. And it just fun. So to wrap up, do you think I hit my parameters? You know, magnitude 10, Northern Hemisphere objects, fewer abbreviations and lots of detail, useful information, simply formatted. And what is it and where is it? I think I got fairly close. And here, just a review. Here's what the contents are. You know, 211 galaxies, 415 open clusters, 82 globulars, 106 nebulas, and 31 asterisms. There are a couple things changed as I go along. You know, about every year to a year and a half, I'll publish an update, and I may drop one of these dimmer ones because I found another one that fits the Mag 10 limit. So, you know, it's just, this is where I currently am with this. Alan Dyer, thank you very much. I have, you know, I really appreciate his input on this, and he sure made a very nice comment that this handy pocket guide provides the reader with a lifetime list of great objects to observe. Every observer needs a good star atlas, but charts alone aren't of much value in helping you decide what of the thousands plotted are worth looking at. Objects in the Heavens provides that essential guide. Thank you very much, Alan. Alvin Huey, who I'm sure many of you know about, he says, I always thought that the Pocket Sky Atlas was a great book, but it's an atlas, not an observing guide. If I want to know what the heck NGC 1023 is, for example, I need to look it up in another reference, and I solve that problem. And Joe Lalumia. Thank you, Joe. It's the best book to use with a go-to scope. Go-to scope, by the way, all the right ascension declination address numbers are all forward a little bit to 2031. So the book will be functional for quite some time to come. And with that, I want to say thank you very much for your kind attendance, kind attention. There are a lot more reviews and articles on my website, and which is, by the way, the only place for ordering. Amazon, just had a friend of mine try to order a book from Amazon, and he got version 4. Well, that came out 17 years ago, and version 4 has been updated several times since then. So thank you for your kind attendance. I hope all Objects in the Heavens will earn a listing on your website, but are there any questions?
Thank you, Peter. We know it's getting late, guys, but we do have time for one, maybe 2 questions if anyone wants to ask Peter something right now. Okay, they're probably still absorbing all of that. Thank you again, Peter, so much. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, folks, we are going to be out of here in like 2-3 minutes. One last real quick thing. I just need a show of hands here. We want to spend some money on Greco, and probably be around $2,000 or so. We're talking about buying one of those new Pegasus smart eyepieces for the Greco Observatory. And the reason being is that with light pollution and all that now, we're having harder and harder time seeing objects in the sky. We tested the Pegasus Smart Eye a few weeks ago, or actually not a few weeks, a few months ago. Tested again a few weeks ago. It's marvelous. It shows us remote galaxies and coloring and nebulas, all that stuff.